You're listening to the Back Home Network, presented by Home Field Apparel.
And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another victorious episode of the Assembly Call, as today your Indiana Hoosiers travel to the Pacific Northwest and lead almost from start to finish against Washington en route to a 78-62 victory. The win pushes the Hoosiers to 18-11 on the season and an even 9-9 in Big Ten play as we enter the last week of conference action. This was a game, like I said, IU really was able to get off to a good start. Take advantage of some poor defense from Washington and really built a double-digit lead by midway through the first half, and a little bit of a lull at the beginning of the second half, and then really responded in a big way between the under 12 and the under 8 timeouts and pushed the lead back up, I think, over 20. I think it got up to 21 at one point and ended up kind of cruising to a victory, and quite honestly just did what you needed to do in this game, is take care of business on the road against an inferior opponent who was at the bottom of the conference standings. And so IU really controlled the game throughout and ends up with a 16-point victory to show for it. I'm your host, Andy Bottoms, and I'm here with the coach, Brian Tonsoni, and Ryan Phillips. And we're going to break it all down for you on this edition of the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. And we'll start this show the way we start every show, and that is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment. And probably a few different places to pick from here, but I'm gonna take kind of the middle segment of the second half. IU had been a little bit sluggish early in the half. Had gotten down to the lead had gotten down to 11. It was 51-40, and at that point, IU had no assists in the second half at that point of the game, and really a sequence of shot making from Goode and some really good defensive plays pushed the lead back up to 20. You had Goode, he missed an open three, but they go down the other end. Anthony Leal has a great block. And then the next defensive possession, Cannon Carlisle forces a jump ball with a great block. You get a Goode tip in on the other end. Leal with a terrific steal, kicks it to Goode on the wing for a three. And after a couple of Washington free throws, they dump it into Reneau. For whatever reason, Washington decided that they were willing to leave Luke Goode wide open on the wing on multiple occasions, and he made him pay there. And then Reneau drives in again, two plays in a row and scores, and it went from 51-40 to 64-44, and that really took any doubt out of the game at that point. Washington did make another little run there toward the end, but really for me it was that segment of the second half where IU took control, didn't let the game get away from them, and a lot of that started on the defensive end with those couple plays by Leal and one by Carlisle that they really got things rolling again, and Goode scored a number of points in that stretch to push that lead back up. So an impressive sequence there that gave IU back some breathing room and ultimately left them enough to get through to the finish line of the game. Our banner moment today, as always, brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel. Now in their 8th season sponsoring the Assembly Call, and their 4th as a presenting sponsor for the Back Home Network. Home Field has the largest collection of vintage IU apparel that you will find anywhere, and since IU is their flagship school, more high-quality gear with unique IU logos from the past is always right around the corner, like the recent knit sweaters that they came out with, the hockey hoodie. Lots of great IU stuff out there. Some Little 5 merchandise is due to come out as part of their next racing collection. But it's also not just IU stuff. They have over 180 schools on their website or on their site now, which makes Home Field the perfect one-stop shop if you need something for yourself or any family and friends. And again, as I said, they came out with some Dale Earnhardt merchandise this week. Have a lot planned for racing and certainly be there when big things happen in the NCAA tournament, like they did with Fairleigh Dickinson, and turned around and got shirts out right away for that. So as we get into March Madness, they're ready to shine as well. And so make sure that you sign up for Home Field text alerts, emails, follow them on social media. That way you can find the latest releases and promo codes. You can also go to homefieldapparel.com and use our promo code HOME23 to get 15% off your entire first order. Again, that's promo code HOME23 for 15% off. Once again, that website is homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. All right, now it's time to move the ball, find the open man, and get some opening thoughts from the rest of our team. And, Coach, I'll throw it to you first. What are your opening thoughts on this 16-point road victory for IU?
Well, Indiana took care of business. They go on the road after some nice wins. needing wins in order to stay viable for the tournament against a Washington team that has not been good this year. And it's one of those trap games where you come off a couple emotional games at home, and then you have to travel, and they handled it. And they played very, very connected offensively. Defensively, I don't think it was Purdue-level defense by any means. I think Indiana benefited from some atrocious shooting from Washington, but they did what they had to do and made the plays that they had to make in order to win games like this. And it's a good win. Any win in the Big Ten is good, especially when your backs are against the wall for tournament selection. And now you got a couple days to get ready to go play Oregon, which if you win and add a quad one, there are no locks on the bubble. You know that, and I hope our fans understand there's no locks with bid thieves and all that stuff happening. But you win at Oregon, and you're feeling a little bit more comfortable, and you could absorb a loss at Oregon as well. But you came out and did business, and the word for me, guys, tonight is connected. This team is playing connected. Even if they don't execute a defensive plan perfect or possession perfect or offense, short of a few shot selection issues, I think at a couple times, they were connected, and it's good to see.
Agreed. And then, Ryan, let's throw it to you for your any rants or ruminations. I believe Jared will throw out at times on that. Opening thoughts on the game tonight.
It's always a rant. I think, Coach mentioned, Washington's not a good team. And so what Indiana did today, and this isn't to downplay what they did, it's to say Indiana did what it should have done. And there's a credit to them for doing that. I don't mean that as a negative. They did what they should do. They won by 16. I believe it's already a five spot jump in Ken Palm, which is massive at this point of the year because they took down a team by even more than they were supposed to. I think as a program moving forward, Indiana needs to start expecting performances like this. Something that hasn't happened over the past decade is taking care of business, not just winning, but taking care of business the way you're supposed to take care of business. The coach is right. This team's playing really well right now for what it is. This team is not a national title contender, but given their limitations and given the structural and, program limitations right now, this team's playing pretty well. And they got every shot to go beat Oregon this week, and then they can finish it off by beating Ohio State. That's in front of them. That is certainly something that can happen. But I do think we need to get into this mentality where a 16-point win over Washington needs to start becoming routine moving forward with whatever happens next. That needs to be, all right, yeah, cool. Not like you don't celebrate a win. You always celebrate a win in the Big Ten, especially on the road. But I think that we need to shift our mentality, and this program needs to shift its mentality to where this is expected. This is the minimum we expect in a situation like this. And the guys, they played really well today. I thought Luke Goode showed up and played great basketball. Malik Reneau looked completely unbothered by whatever he was dealing with flu-wise earlier in the week. Just a really good performance. They started fast, kind of had a lull there in the second quarter, or the middle part of the first half, and finished that first half on a good run to get a good lead. Again, let Washington never got back into it, but they tightened it up a little bit and then were able to end it a sprint to the finish. They could have very easily relaxed in that last 3 minutes. Mike Woodson called a timeout at one point to kind of refocus them. They could have relaxed. It could have wound up being about an 8-point game. Instead, they put the hammer down at the end, make it 16. Credit to them for doing that. And this is what we should expect from games like this.
Yeah, and I think this just goes along with what both of you said. I know we're not doing stats yet, but IU led for 37 minutes and 5 seconds, and Washington led for 47 seconds. Washington's largest and probably only lead was at 3-0 early in the game, and then IU was able to really come back and control the game from there. And by the second media timeout in the first half, they were up by 10. Just was a very kind of workmanlike, take care of business. Kind of jumping on a team early that you knew would, they'll put back a little bit of resistance if you get up. But I think the kind of knowing the opponent a little bit in terms of being able to jump on them was really critical. And when there were, lapses, if you will, where things, they start to get back in the game, I think they responded. I talked about that stretch in the banner moment, but there was another one toward the end of the first half, as you talked about, Ryan, where you get a Reneau dunk, a Goode 3, and kind of push the lead. It got down to 8, and then you push the lead back up to 13 at that point. And so I thought even when Washington did make a little bit of a charge, IU seemed to have a response and always really kept them at arm's length.
Yeah, I think one thing to add to this is I don't think Indiana necessarily played better than they did against Penn State or Purdue or Michigan State. They just played consistently throughout the game and were able to keep them at a distance. I mean, obviously, Purdue you beat by 15. It's a much better team. You beat by 15. You beat Washington by 16. But I do think that this wasn't their best game in this stretch, but the numbers bear out that it was. I just think it's one of those things where when you play consistently and the quality of opponent drops, that score margin will increase. And that's to their credit. They are playing pretty consistently right now over the last, 5 games after, 8 games or so where they played terribly and just couldn't. And so, they played hard in some of those games, just couldn't finish them. Now something has flipped and they are doing everything they need to do, playing consistent. I think it's a balanced attack too, which makes them even more dangerous. So I think that the consistency isn't just game to game, it's throughout the game as well. And that's why you get those stretches where the opponent makes it tight, they stretch it back out. They just are able to play in a way that allows them to do that instead of being as streaky as they've been all season. I think that compounds what we're seeing and adds to this improvement.
Yeah, and Coach, as we look a little bit at individual performances, the one that really stands out is Malik Reneau, not just because of the color guy who, by all accounts, was not good, but he was calling out just how easy Reneau was scoring, and that part he was right on. Reneau ends up with 22 points on 10 of 13 shooting, only missed 2 2-point shots, did take a 3 from the corner later, had 6 rebounds, 2 assists in 25 minutes. So 22
his first
points
half. His first half was brilliant.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, he really came in for Ballo and really short of a few minutes in the second half, IU stuck with one big. But Coach, as you looked at Reneau, I think I heard flu on Monday, but I think Galen said in the intro of Crimson Cast they thought it was maybe like an allergic reaction to something. Whatever it was, he was clearly over it for this game and really responded.
It's good to see from many aspects what happened at the 5 spot today. Number one, Malik Reneau handling not starting. It's easy to understand as a player if you're talked to, you were sick, you're going to come off the bench. But some guys don't handle it very well. And it looked like he had no problem coming in and then taking over when he had to take over. And that's always a good sign. That's part of that connectivity, right? That's part of that playing for Indiana stuff that we've been clamoring for a long time. He is really good on the move. When you catch that elbow, he's got that little elbow rip. I mean, he's almost unguardable when he has space to put the ball on, and then he on the floor, and then he uses his shoulders and he can get his shot off. Almost his footwork is special, and that's why he's a lane scorer. And I know he took a 3 today, and he's capable of doing that. But he's not a stretch 4; he's a 5, and he's a real dangerous 5 because it's hard to guard that action, any action, even in the low post. But instead of just throwing it to him in the post up and letting him Barkley and bounce that ball, that they're getting him on the move, some back screen, Spain action, all that kind of stuff, and that's where he's just so dangerous. And so that was a good response to being ill and then coming back off the bench and not trying too hard to do anything, but just play good basketball. So it was really good to see dominating performance tonight by Malik Reneau. But it's also important that I thought they did some of the same things with Ballo. They're trying to put him on the move a little bit. Yes, they posted him up. Yes, they're trying to go a little high-low. I really like what they're doing high-low when teams are fronting, then Mbako or Goode or whoever flashes from the weak side to empty out to help. And they're trying to do that, and they don't get it every time, but they're doing a lot more that with 1 5 on the floor instead of 2 5s on the floor. And I know we beat that dead horse over and over and over again, but it opens up the ability for the coaching staff to be creative in its calls and its sets. And you got to give credit to the staff as well for running some different things now that they've kind of settled on a majority of the game going with one or the other post player. Now we'll see against Oregon if they go back to that starting lineup, but it just flows so much better at the 5 spot. And you have shooters. And Mbako hit some, Goode hit some, Galloway's taken some. So Reneau was special tonight, and without him, the game's a lot closer, obviously. But he was really, really good.
Ryan, thoughts on Malik tonight?
Yeah, and as I mentioned, 6 of 6 in the first half. For I think he had 14 and played 12 minutes. He just came in looking well rested, I guess, and really attacked. And I think as Coach said, he can be dangerous. His footwork is outstanding. We knew that as a high school recruit that his footwork was great, but it's gotten even better. And this was one of those games where we've seen, Ballo step up and be the main post some games, and the Reneau comes in and does it too. And this was his time to shine. And I think that he just felt like when he stepped on the floor, he was in attack mode the entire game. And the rebounding numbers aren't, particularly great, but he was certainly a part of it the whole game. And he only played 25 minutes at 22 points, so that's another wrinkle to add in there. And that was probably, of course, what he was dealing with, whatever he was dealing with the last few days. They only needed him for 25, and he played just an outstanding game. One of his better games of the season for sure.
They trapped Ballo hard the first time, and then
were
rotating from the strong side, and then rotated out to the strong side to take the strong side kick out, forcing a skip pass, and then they were going to close out on a skip pass. And so, again, credit.
They did that the first, 3 possessions, Coach. And
then all of a sudden the post-ups weren't there anymore, which is an adjustment. They did go to that high-low action a little bit, but they, again, credit to the coaching staff here for trying. You still need to go into the post. I hope people understand when we're talking about the non-two bigs, you still have to have a post presence, and you still have to pound it in there because it's good basketball. But better balance of rim and three is what we've always been clamoring for. And the adjustments made today, I thought were really good. And in fact, since the Purdue game, the strategy defensively in the Purdue game, and then the offense at the Penn State game, and then the connectivity tonight. Jared put out a post in the community about why always at the end of the year. Well, if you coach without pressure and you play without pressure, you generally play a little bit better. And the key is the program needs to play with that confidence, Ryan, that you were talking about, and expectations that you were talking about every game with the level of confidence. And it's showing here a little bit, and we hope that it's not too late.
Yeah, so we kind of talked a little bit about the kind of two-headed monster in the post. I think he had a little bit of the same thing at the point guard spot. Galloway, only 4 of 12 from the field, didn't have the three-point shot going the way that he did against Penn State the other night, but did have 7 assists, continues to pile up strong assist numbers, and he ends up with 8 points in those 7 assists. Felt like he sat for a long time in the second half. I know he kind of got folded up when somebody fell on him. I didn't know if that was part of it, but he did come back in at the end. And but we saw another solid effort from Miles Rice as well. He ends up with 10 points, 5 rebounds, only 1 assist. But I thought he looked really comfortable. Again, another guy coming off the bench that was a starter for a long time. And, I think being able to, when they go to the bench, bring in guys like him and Reneau right now, you don't really see a fall off in playmaking and scoring and things like that in the way that we might have seen earlier in the year as things were getting sorted out with the rotation. But I thought Rice just continued to play with confidence, shot, hit a couple threes within the middle segment of the first half. The first one, he turned and started running back down the floor as soon as he let it go. He just knew. And then they backed off, went under a screen, gave him another one. He drilled that one as well. Had some nice drives to the basket when the opportunity presented itself as they pulled Washington out a little bit away from the basket. And so I thought another good effort from him. Did some things on the defensive end in terms of creating steals. Had a good reach in when he dug down on Osabor and got a jump ball that then a couple plays later when Carlisle gets that block and IU ends up getting the ball out of that. Drew a charge on Osabor as well, I think. So I thought another good effort from Rice and complimented Galloway well. They did play together some, but thought kind of what you got in tandem from those two, Ryan, was really key as we think about guard play and what's going on. And they mentioned on the broadcast that they started to ask Woodson a question about kind of who really needed to get going for them to be able to make a deep run, and he didn't let him finish the question. He said Miles Rice, and I think we started to see glimpses of that over these last couple games. Yeah,
and he finished I think the last game really well and started this one really well. points in the first. 8 of his points came in the first half. 3 of 5, 2 of 3 from 3, 4 rebounds in the first half, an assist. Did have the 2 turnovers. He was -1, but that's because in that segment where he came in was when Washington made that run. It had nothing to do with him. And then second half, he had 2 points, but I just thought like his confidence was at another level. And that's been the biggest thing with him over the last couple of weeks, is just seeing that the guy who started the season really confident did not exist and wasn't there. And you've seen it sort of build in these last few games. And it's certainly, in the second half of the Penn State game and then the first half of this one. And I've quibbled with things Mike Woodson have said in the past, but do not disagree with that at all. Miles Rice, if he elevates this team's standing hit the ceiling much, much higher, because he's a true scoring point guard who can lead the team. He can have a lot of impact without filling up the stat sheet, but when he is filling up the stat sheet, it takes Indiana to another level, and they need that. I mean, we talked about it, after the last game, that one of the things that's going to make this job attractive to somebody who wants to win now is if Miles Rice is coming back, because that is a really talented player that under the right direction could be an outstanding guard in the Big Ten. And you're starting to see glimpses of it, and you hope that he can just build on it over these next 2 games heading into the Big Ten tournament.
Rice is such a good point guard, but I think he's been in a system that doesn't play to his strengths. And I think it's getting closer to that with the one big action, a little more leeway to drive or be the second man off the ball. He's had a couple games now in a row where I think he's really started to come back, but he was really on the struggle bus there for a good stretch of games. But I think the young man is trying to do what is asked of him, and it's not natural to him. And then he got caught up in a couple late game situations, and that can wear on you too when you miss some shots or you do something that everyone's going to focus on was the cost of the game, and it wasn't. Everyone knows that there are many plays in a game, but he just had a bad stretch, and that mentally can get to you. And it looks like he's getting out of his funk a little bit. But, talking to other people, Joe Jackson, Feed the Post, I really like his Big Ten work. He is a big fan of Miles Rice. And we have conversations every once in a while. If Indiana's going to maximize this year, Miles Rice is going to, have to be a contributor. And yes, he hit that 3 against Penn State that Ryan mentioned late with confidence. Last show tonight, I thought he came out and just looked more comfortable playing the game, getting to the rim and hitting some shots. So, I think Indiana's a lot better when he is, playing this way. Whether he starts or comes off the bench, I don't think it matters.
Yeah, the last guy I wanted to touch on before we take a break and get to meaningful moments is Luke Goode. He ends up with 18 points, 5 of 9 from three-point range, 6 of 11 total from the floor, had 4 rebounds, no turnovers, did have a steal. He and Leo played the most minutes of anybody. They're actually the only 2 guys to play more than 25. This was kind of a game in a lot of ways, nice for this time of the year to not really have to play guys heavy minutes heading into another road game. Coming up. Goode now on the season, 41% from 3, 46% from 3 in Big Ten play, and he has really been, everything that IU has wanted from him, and probably even more as you look at what he's done. He did have the slow start
to the season too, so he's really come on.
Yeah, and I mean the 1 2-point basket he made was kind of a big, big play where he gets a tip in on a miss and. Just kind of fights his way in to get the offensive rebound. Had another play where he gets the free throw line just because he's kind of in the right place at the right time off a bad pass. Did some nice things defensively and just really active. So, I wanted to make sure that we mentioned him off the top just because he continues to be a real bright spot. And like I said, I was talking about the one run, he's standing there on the wing as they dump the ball into Reneau, and why Washington is doubling off of him, I cannot really fathom. But they did it once, and he missed an open shot, and he kind of cussed at himself, and he came back down, hit the very next one on the exact same play, and just thought he brought a lot of great things tonight. And the floor spacing, as we start talking about playing one big and what he brings to the table, and those guys really look for him in transition, which is where he's been really effective shooting threes as well. That that steal by Leal that I mentioned. He comes up, kicks it to him on the wing. Just such a quick release that he was able to get some things there, and then really even late hit a kind of I guess it wasn't really a dagger at that point, but makes it a 3 to push it back up to 76 to 60 there at the end. And so just he continues to be a bright spot offensively.
Goode takes advantage of transition, getting out in transition and getting his feet set on the catch and letting it fly. On those post-ups, that's that double action. They were doubling from the strong side, and then they were rotating over. So if I'm the Washington coach in film, like, who didn't know that the shooter, the 40% shooter that we need to cover, and you need to cheat that way, someone was staying middle on Galloway or Leal or someone and did not come over on Goode. And that's what happens when you stretch the floor. And the other guys can shoot the 3 too, but you confuse the defense when you move a little bit, and when you have those he's just so confident right now, and it's good to see. And we saw that all year long with the leadership stuff with Goode, but now his offensive game, he even had a little pull-up jumper. I don't know if he hit it or not, but I thought it was really a confident move on a drive. And that little shot fake step aside 3 is nice for him too, but he's really good in his shot preparation with his foot and his hands, and he doesn't shoot quick, but he gets ready to shoot quick, and it's just pure, man. You can just hear that net plop. I mean, it's just a beautiful sound when that ball goes through.
He's legitimately, if I was game playing inside you, he's the only guy I would say don't ever leave. The other guys, they're streaky, but he's solid, man. Can we get him an extra year?
He's a flyby guy,
please? I know he has a chance to possibly apply for a medical red shirt. I really hope he comes back. I love watching him play.
Yeah, maybe you can help him fill out the paperwork for that, Ryan.
I'm down. Luke, if you need help, me call, buddy.
All right. Well, we'll take our first break here, and coming up as we continue our breakdown of IU's 78-62 win at Washington, we'll point out some meaningful moments you might have missed and then go inside the numbers to highlight the most important statistical notes from the game. You're listening to Assembly Call. Stick with us.
This is Verdell Jones. What's better than an epic buzzer beater, the full court dribble, and perfectly placed pass to set it all up? And of course celebrating with Hoosier Nation afterwards. So join Jared, Andy, Ryan, and Coach on an assembly call after every IU basketball game. Go Hoosiers.
All right, welcome back to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. I'm Andy Bottoms here with the coach Brian Tonsoni and Ryan Phillips, and we are breaking down IU's 78-62 win over the Huskies of Washington, and it is now time for today's meaningful moment you might have missed.
Meaningful moments that you might have missed.
This segment, as always, is brought to you by our friends at the Hoosier Ticket Project, where they help individuals and families experience Indiana University athletic events in person for the first time through the generosity of alumni and fans. To learn more about how you can donate money or extra tickets to help create meaningful moments for other IU fans, visit HoosierTicketProject.org. Again, that's HoosierTicketProject.org. And as we look at meaningful moments, I could just turn this into like an Anthony Leal meaningful moments segment. I wrote down so many just little plays that he did. So I'll run through a few of these, and I'm probably going to miss some of these in my notes, but I will attempt to go through somewhat in order. Early in the game, draws a foul on a moving screen where he's just fighting through the defense, and the guy's like a bulldozer going through him. I think it's 14 to 5. He has a great look from near half court, gets it into Reneau, who gets fouled. Next segment, Washington went to a 1-3-1 for a couple possessions. He set a really good screen when Miles Rice is on the dribble. He screens a guy in the middle of the zone, lets Rice turn the corner. He gets it to Reneau for an and one. Another late first half, gets the ball quick into Reneau, who gets it to Goode for a 3. That made it 39-26. Had a steal late in the half. Had a couple steals early in the second half. I mentioned that block as part of the banner moments and things like that. And I feel like there's probably 10 more that I have on here, but just just really feels like he continues to always be in the right place at the right time. There's more and more chatter about him being an all-defensive team player. I think that's tricky in a league that has 18 teams. But, I mean, and then you look at it and you think about meaningful moments you might have missed. You didn't miss him make a shot. He took one shot the whole game, scored 0 points. But he had the highest plus-minus of anybody in the game, had 4 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, 3 steals, no turnovers in 34 minutes. Just did so many little things off the ball to help other guys, was in the right spots defensively. Just think we can just turn this segment, Coach, into a Anthony Leal appreciation segment for all those little things.
When I was coaching, we'd scout players that did stuff like that. We had a name for them called ALF, A-L-F, annoying little, and you can figure out what the F is for. and you kind of warned your players like, don't.
I thought you were referring to the alien.
Not to the character on the
yeah,
the orange alien. No, I'm really showing my age now. But he is a pest to play against. Not for us. We love it. But Leo is a pest. He's bouncing off people, blocking out people, and just in the right spots all the time. And it is annoying as an opposing coach to know that's going to happen to your players and try to get your players prepared for it. And so, yeah, he's just a pest. I wrote that down on my notes that you just would be – it's just tough to play against him because he is just fighting every possession within his ability. You know, there are times he gets beaten off the dribble. There are times when, he misses a shot or things like that. But he is a competitor. He embraces the competition. That is just a huge thing for athletes to understand. Like, embrace the toughness of everything that you do, and then be tough yourself. And it's just unbelievably awesome to see him be patient and be rewarded. To see young players like that, a lot of people in this day and age aren't very patient, and he got his time and he made it, and now he's going to have not only a good degree and some NIL money and a business, but he's going to be remembered for a long time for being that Indiana player that we all like.
The other meaningful moment that I'll throw out was just another play for Miles Rice at the very end of the first half. Ends up finding Langdon Hatton, who gets fouled with 0.1 seconds left. He made one of the 2 free throws, but it was, I thought, a good decision by Rice in some ways. Now, I'm not really. It was an even worse decision by Washington to foul because I don't think Hatton was going to get the shot off. But Rice tried to stay patient in that scenario instead of trying to force things. We talked about some of those end of game things. So he finds Hatton, who gets fouled. The 1 point is not a huge difference in the game, but just thought it was a kind of subtle play that he was able to make that. I think in other games and other times this season is not the play that he chooses to make. He chooses to force a contested shot. Maybe it goes in, maybe it doesn't. But I thought that patience from him was good. Coach, any moments that you had marked down that you wanted to talk through?
Just one subtle one. Renew's basket, I think, under 25 seconds or something. Well, like to get to 43, I think it was a tip-in offensive rebound. But the ball was lingering above the rim. And what athleticism and patience to not touch it while it was on the rim. And Renew's actually, I think, coming down a little bit, and he lets the ball get outside the cylinder and then touches it and taps it in. Like, that's a heck of a athletic move. And it also shows the intelligence to know, like, if I touch it now, this is going to be, goaltending, offensive interference.
Speaking of patience,
I just thought that was something. What?
Speaking of patience, right? Being smart and not rushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I mean, if you've ever played knockout tips or whatever it's called, where you tip the ball and the guy's got to go back to 0 or whatever, right? It's not easy. It's not easy. And obviously I'm not 6'9" and athletic, and I have anywhere close to Renew, but it's difficult. And I thought that was just an impressive athletic play, which speaks for the kind of night that Renew had. The points are nice and all those flashy plays, but that was just a subtle little play that was really big because it pushed the lead up to 12 or 13, and then the foul got it to 14. And those points are very, very valuable going into the half.
Yeah, last thing I'll throw out, Ryan, is just give you a chance to talk a little bit about Mackenzie Mbako. I thought he ends up with 10 points, was kind of an up and down performance from him, I think, at times. But I was optimistic about him as you got from the beginning of the game. We talked so much about how important it is for him to get involved and really engaged early in the game. And so he hits a three for IU's first points of the game that tied it back up. And then later in that first segment, he really ran down an offensive rebound. He ended up missing the three off of that play, but I thought was really active in that sequence. Hit another long two there toward the end of the first half, but then he ended up charging on a play after that when they probably just needed to pull the ball back outside. So, I thought he did some good things. He's been a guy we've, talked about some of the playing time things really fluctuating. He ended up playing 25 minutes tonight, which is around what a lot of other guys were. Ends up with 10 points, 4 rebounds. Like I said, kind of an up and down performance, but I think some little things that he did well as he kind of continues on that road. But any thoughts on Mbako's play tonight?
They're going to need him against Oregon. They're really going to need him against Oregon. And so seeing him not have a complete dog of a game is a positive, as we've seen. I mean, he's a streaky guy. The talent is undeniable, but he's been streaky in his performances. And I'll say this, I think that, we've talked about how Miles Rice raises the ceiling on this team. Mackenzie Mbako is number 2 there. I mean, it's lessened a little bit because Luke Goode can play on the wing and get you points and do all those things. So it lessens his importance if you don't have him. But if you do, and he's a guy who can play up to his ability and give you 20 and grab some rebounds and, get out and transition and do different things, that makes you that much more dangerous as we close this season out. And so he needs to find a rhythm if Indiana is going to make noise. I'm not talking just get into the tournament, but Indiana is going, if Indiana gets into the tournament, it is going to be a team nobody wants to face just because of how much talent is on the team and that they can beat and compete with anybody on the right night. Now, on a bad night, they could also be beaten by anybody, but you want sure things in the tournament. You want easy first and second round games to get you to that Sweet 16. You do not want to potentially get in a dogfight against a really talented team. And so if Mbako can get his game to a place where he is consistently giving you an average of about 15 points a game and can grab some rebounds, like you mentioned, chase down an offensive rebound, do the things that he's capable of at his size and with his ability on offense, it makes Indiana that much more dangerous. And so you're just kind of waiting for him to sort of blossom and jump out of that. And Miles Rice is the same way. And we've started to see Rice get more consistent. You got to see that from Mbako moving forward if Indiana wants to make noise.
Yeah, and I think if you look at that, if you get him going, you got a really solid and Rice as we talked about before, like you got a solid 7 guys there. We talked about, Woodson's really shortened up the rotation quite a bit. Carlisle played double-digit minutes tonight. Hatton got in really when both guys had foul trouble there for the last minute of both the other bigs had foul trouble for the last minute and a half. But I mean, if you get those guys going, you got kind of a core 7 guys that you can mix and match, play a little bit differently in that regard. So I thought did enough good things to maybe that hopefully there's something to build on. And seems like different guys have really stepped up in different moments in games for this team of late, and maybe the Oregon game is his. Coach, you said you had a quick one on Umar Balo that you wanted to touch on before we
I'm going to talk about Mbako. I'm going to talk about Mbako here real quick. I'm with Van Pasterman there too. He's got to score because he still struggles defensively. Like if he's scoring, you could put up with a couple defensive struggles, but if he's struggling and missing shots or whatever reason, then you'll see him be pulled out and limit minutes. So again, we've talked about maybe going to him early to get him going, so that you have his offensive ability throughout the game and you don't have to sit him. But if he's not scoring right now, there are better combinations, I think, defensively out there that can still score. On Balo, how about his catch and rip early in the game? Like he caught that ball on the elbow and put the ball on the ground and got to the rim.
One of the more unexpected baskets of the season, I would say.
Yeah, but it goes back to my point about the 5 men. They're getting elbow catches. They're catching up high. The alley-oops that they've had before, like I prefer that than the straight post-ups. You need some straight post-ups in the game, some high-low in the game, but they're not as reliant on it right now, and I think that's why Indiana's offense has played better, and they're on this 3-game winning streak because of the adjustment from you still use your talented fives, but you're using them in different positions. Ballo's got that little floater that he's been working on and scoring as well. So that I thought was a meaningful moment too, because he's being aggressive and just putting his head down and getting to that rim. I think that was a really impressive move.
Yeah, and as you look ahead to Oregon, they've got a really good big guy, Nate Biddle. So he's a 7-footer that will provide some challenges. But I thought they did a good job of, based on who was in for Washington, trying to figure out where it made sense to get them the ball most. I think the guy who started the game was a bit less mobile, and they took advantage of that to a certain extent. And I thought they did a good job in that area. But we'll move on to stats now, and as we go inside the numbers, a reminder that's brought to you by our friends at Jackson Hewitt Tax Services. If you live in Bloomington or the surrounding areas and you want your taxes done right, contact our friend and Chat Mob Hall of Famer Megan Mahaffey and her team in Bloomington, Bedford, and Martinsville by calling 812-339-3334 or visiting jacksonhewitt.com. All right, Ryan, I'll throw this to you to open it up for stats. I know you had a couple things with Trey Galloway as he kind of moves his way up the all-time IU leaderboard in a couple categories, so I want to make sure we don't miss that, and you had mentioned those in the chat.
Yeah, Trey had his 137th game as an IU Hoosier, and that ties Yogi Ferrell for the most all time. So he'll break that against Oregon. And then also he now, with his 7 assists, he's up to 414 for his career, which is 18 shy of Randy Whitman for 7th all time. So Trey Galloway is sort of at the end of his final season, starting to really move up the ranks there. And I saw somebody say, well, yeah, Whitman played, 4 years and Trey is playing his 5th, but Trey did miss, to be fair, he missed a lot of games his freshman and sophomore year. I think that, he's certainly going to have more games than Whitman, as we've seen. He's going to be the all-time leader, but it's not like he had a full extra 38, 40 games or something to get these numbers. He did have some time out. I think he only played 20 his sophomore year. So it's not as big a difference as you'd think, but still, I mean, really a great achievement for Trey. I think that we're starting to see that guy, and last year he during Big Ten play was unbelievable with the assists. And I think he had last year he had 2 12-assist games during Big Ten play. I think one was Northwestern. I think the other was Wisconsin. So yeah, just really impressive from Trey that he's really coming to his own as a guy who can get buckets for other people and has been really consistent at it this season.
And
7 assists are really nice. He's done a nice job getting those assists, and he's moving up the assist thing that we talked about before. When you're your point guard, you don't mind your point guard scoring, but while you're scoring, if you can get people the ball in the right position, and boy, Galloway has done a really good job of that. Really good job.
His last 4 games for assists total 6, 9, 9, and 7. I mean, that's consistently very good from him, especially when, Miles Rice hasn't racked up a lot of assists this year. And so it's almost the two-headed monster of those guys creating for other people.
Yeah, and it's odd. If you look back, he had a couple games like before that stretch you talked about, Ryan, where he only had 1 in each game. And then there's another stretch of 6 games in a row where he had at least 5. So he's been far more consistent than not in that area. And, I think you see that in the numbers overall a little bit. IU ends up with 16 assists on 30 makes. Not quite what they've been doing at other times, but that was, 16 assists compared to 9 turnovers, close to a 2-to-1 ratio. And if you look at Washington, they had 8 assists and 13 turnovers. So I think a pretty big disparity there. Coaches, as I look down some of these other numbers, you've got points in the paint. IU wins that 40-24. Bench points, thanks to Reneau and Rice coming off the bench. IU wins that 35-10. Slim advantage on second chance points, 10-7. Slim advantage on points off turnovers, 10-7. But just a lot of different areas where IU was able to gain an advantage on the stat sheet. They took the same number of threes as Washington, hit 3 more, shot almost 40% from the 3-point line. So lots of good team related stats. Any others that jump out to you?
I'm going to go individual, Andy. Guard rebounding. You especially when you play one big, you need people to crash the boards, and I think Washington only had 8 offensive rebounds and on the night, and they They missed 37 shots, so whatever that percentage is I think that's pretty good. And they only had 7 second chance points. So in order to get out in transition, you need to rebound. And so Leal has 4 rebounds. Goode has 4 rebounds. Mbako with 4. Miles Rice with 5. Kanan Carlisle with 4 in his
balance
17 minutes. That's a subtle stat, that I didn't pay attention to during the game and didn't write it down, that I was noticing the guards rebounding. But you think about it, when you're playing one big, someone's got to get the rebounds, and if you're not rebounding, then you could play good defense, and then your first shot defense is good, but they get a second and a third. That's when there's momentum built, and it's kick out threes and all of that. So when I looked at the final stats, that really stuck out at me. That has not been an area that Indiana has done well, is have their guards rebound. And again, all of these things are starting to show why Indiana's won 3 games, and played well in some losses down the stretch, is because these little things, I think, really, really matter. And the other thing was 23 threes, as 37.7% of the shots were threes, and 9 of 23 for 39.1%. They hit 5 in the first half, 4 in the second. Again, you want to see that carry over against, a good team, but you did what you had to against this Washington team that did not guard with as much intensity. So you don't play around with it. You make them pay, and Indiana did tonight with a lot of a good shooting night from deep.
Yeah, I think one thing on the rebound is, you out rebound Washington by 2, and as you said, Coach, the top rebounder for Indiana had 6. It was balanced. Everybody was in it. It was an effort, across the board to get that done. And that's showing. I mean, as you said, all these little things are what add up to victories. And to Indiana's credit, it may be too late for some. Honestly, it kind of is, because if you'd started this 2 weeks earlier, you'd very easily be in the tournament. You wouldn't have to be struggling down the stretch for this. And it feels like that's happened a couple times to this program, but still it's happening. And you have to give them credit for it happening, whether it's too late or not. They're starting to play in a way where everybody's involved. There's balance. It's a team game, and where you're starting to see the results now across the board in so many different ways, whether it's balance scoring, balance rebounding, balance defending, not taking as many silly fouls, just the little things like that. They're playing winning basketball. And we've waited a long time to say that.
Connected stuff.
Yeah, it's winning basketball.
They're connected.
Yeah, and you look at and I would say I think that the guys driving the bus and where you have seen the shift come is to playing guys like Luke Goode and Anthony Leal more, and the rest of the team is picking up on the things they do. I mean, Leal had 2 blocks tonight. Like, he's one of the smallest guys on the floor. He's got 2, probably the smallest. He's got 2 blocks, 3 steals. I mean, we've talked about him enough, but those kind of things, he's definitely an elf. Those kind of things, that leads to winning, and the results speak for themselves so far.
I'm gonna send him a shirt with the word elf on it in crimson, and so he can wear it with pride. And I'm glad that he's on our side, right? The other stat is great. Asabar, 4 points on 0-5 field goal shooting, 0 from 1 from 3. He got 4 points on 4 of 6 free throw shooting. That's their player. That's their $2 million player, I think, Ryan, wasn't he, in that ballpark of NIL money?
He was not great. It's
yeah, and so whatever scheme and the players that were responsible for that and team effort, when you take away their best player, like they were searching all night for stuff because he got going. He got in a little bit of foul trouble, but again, credit the Indiana scheme and the guys for really shutting down their $1 million NIL, and that helps.
Yeah, they did. I saw that as well. I was gonna throw that in here before we break. I thought they had a good game plan against him with different guys kind of digging down and trying to double him. And I know they talked about that the Washington coach had said, how much he had to, deal with getting doubled and the way the defense is focused on him this year. But despite that, they put up the one stat when he was at the free throw line that he's, scoring, I want to say it was like 18 points a game or something like that. He's leading them in points, rebounds, all these different categories, and IU really got him rattled and took him essentially out of the game. As you said, 4 points, 3 turnovers, just 4 rebounds, 1 assist. I think he was their leading assist man coming into the game as well. So they did a good job, good game plan of dealing with him for sure. So, all right, well, we will take our last break, and coming up on the assembly call, we're going to hand out our game balls and the Hoosier Hustle Award. We'll discuss a lingering question or two and look ahead to IU's upcoming opponent. That's all next here on the assembly call. Stick with us.
This is Tim Priller, and I never miss an episode of the Assembly Call.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. I'm Andy Bottoms here with Coach Brian Tonsoni and Ryan Phillips, and we are breaking down Indiana's 78-62 victory at Washington. It's now time for our game balls, which are presented by our friends Allie and James at Bloom Environmental. They want to help you protect your home's air quality, and the best way to do that is to stop water at the source. They've been voted the best of B-Town in basement services for 4 years running, and their basement waterproofing and crawl space encapsulation is the best defense your home can have against mold growth and structural damage. Mention Assembly Call and get $10 off your system. Call today for a free estimate, or if you want to hear Allie talk about Kurt Signetti, the current IU winning streak, or really whatever you want. You can learn more about them at bloomenviro.com. All right, gentlemen, time for game balls. You better get this right, or apparently Jared will lodge another formal complaint about the process after he recused himself from the voting process, from what I could tell. So
I was contacted by Human Resources the other day, and something was put in my file, and so I'm a little angry about this game ball. I thought Ryan and I did a really nice job on the
we did a
great job selecting the game balls and the Hoosier Hustle, and then we end up in Human Resources interview. It's just not fair.
I'm sure that's your first time that's it's come to that, Coach. For you,
no,
so.
Threaten to dock my pay, like it's.
Yeah.
All right, well, Coach, I will give you I'll give you first dibs. Who gets your game ball for today?
Malik Reneau. Drop the mic. Just really ready to play. Stats alone or aside, he was ready to play after missing the last game, and I just think he was the dominant force, which then let everyone else, feed as well.
Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, no question. Malik, 22-6, led team in rebounds with 6, had 2 assists, 20 and did it all in 25 minutes. Impressive showing from him coming off of whatever, but he also whatever he was dealing with this week. But also, I thought really asserted himself in the first half when Indiana started to establish that this was not going to be a close game. Thought that was the most important contribution he had, was to go 6 of 6 in the first half in 12 minutes and really help Indiana stretch that lead.
I will make it unanimous and give mine to Malik as well. Just thought he was key in that segment in the first half where they really pulled away and continued to make big plays in the second half as well. So that will be Malik's 3rd game ball of the season. Kind of surprising as you look down the list here where he ranks, but that will be his 3rd. And now it is time for the Hoosier Hustle Award, which is sponsored by our friends at Evansville Security Services.
Hi, this is Anthony Leal, and it's time for the Hoosier Hustle Award. But first, I have some exciting news to share about our friends at Evansville Security Services. They've been acquired. They are now part of the team at Security Pro 24/7, which provides trusted and reliable security for your event or business, from Bloomington, my hometown, to Evansville, where Coach Calvert Chaney grew up, and everything in between. Just like hustle can't be measured by stats, prevention can't be measured either, but it has a huge impact on your bottom line and peace of mind. So let the security pros at Security Pro 24/7 help you prevent a bad outcome today. Visit securitypro247.com to learn more. That's securitypro247.com. And tell them Anthony Leal sent you.
All right. And Ryan, I will give you first dibs at this. I see Jared in the run sheet has even put in here official protest for Penn State game, which is.
Does he think there's like an official formal process for anything with this show? I'm genuinely curious. It's
unclear to me.
We're kind of winging it.
Hell, we don't even know who's on the show until the day of. So I mean, what's
day of? It's like hours beforehand.
I mean, what are we doing? All right, Ryan, who gets your Hoosier Hustle Award?
I'm torn between two guys, but I'm going to give it to Luke Goode. I think Anthony Leal is a great candidate despite the lack of scoring, but I think that tip in from Goode, his hustle on that tip in was such a key basket. And then I'm giving him credit for the offense he did. That 3 in transition he hit was huge late. So I'm going to give it to Goode. But Anthony Leal, I wouldn't argue with if you gave it to him too. I think it's just those two are just going to be battling it out for the rest of the season, in my opinion.
Coach, what about you?
Man, I kind of just want to go with Ryan just to piss Jared off again. But I don't know if that's the case. I got to go Leal. I got to go Leal. He's an elf.
It's a totally fair vote.
He's an annoying little hustler. Well, that doesn't sound well either, but he does all the things I love in a basketball player. Anthony Leal. I'm going to shut up before I say something even worse.
That's rough. All right. Well, I really appreciate you leaving it to me to break the tie between those two. Man, I don't know what kind of run Leal is on in this category, but I'm going to continue it and give mine to him. I just it's crazy to me that again, you look even at the box score on KenPom. Leal ends up the game with an offensive rating of 134, and he took one shot. I guess and he didn't even make it. So to me, on some level, when you're impacting the game that way through hustle plays and things like that, that's where I lean toward him. I would probably have no issue whatsoever giving it to Luke Goode, and I think in some ways giving it to him would be a nod to what he did offensively, which was critical in the game and the 3-point shooting. But I'm going to give mine to Leal. He's just been such a difference maker in terms of as he's gotten more minutes, just how well this team has played, and so I'm gonna give mine to him, and that makes his 8th Hoosier Hustle Award. I don't know how many games in a row it is, but it is at least a few, I would say. Is
he the leader on the season?
Yes, he is the leader, unless Jared wants to manufacture other numbers in this sheet. But according to this, he's up to 8 now. Galloway is second with 6, and Goode is third with 5. So, all right. Well, as we look ahead, I'm going to kind of talk Oregon for just a second here. As we look ahead to the next game, I think Oregon, you look at them from a ranking standpoint, and you look at where they are in KenPom, they're 33rd as it sits right now. But as Coach knows very well, they have racked up a lot of impressive wins over the course of the season. They may not have been the most efficient while doing it, but they've beaten Texas A&M, San Diego State, Alabama out of conference, and then in the league they've struggled at home a bit, but have beaten Maryland there and are on a 5-game winning streak as they head into this game after beating USC. Today, that was on the heels of a big-time comeback against Wisconsin where they won at the Kohl Center. We know how difficult that can be to do. So it will definitely be a huge test for IU. But I think, now that they've got this game under their belt where you can go in and kind of feel like, hey, we got one of these on the road trip. If we can get the second one, great, but maybe not as much pressure to do that as there would be if they had lost this game. So, Oregon defensively ranks 41st in adjusted defensive efficiency. They're 35th on the offensive side of the ball, so pretty close to where IU is. IU's 59th offensively and 49th on defense. So, be kind of interesting to see what they do there. They do not put teams on the line a great deal. And they've had really good 3-point defense. So IU came in, shot almost 40% today. We'll see if they can find a way to keep that up. And then offensively, they don't turn it over a ton. They shoot the ball well from the free throw line. And IU's got a couple guys to watch. Jackson Shellstad is their best player at guard. Hit a big shot to tie the game at Wisconsin that forced overtime. Just 6 feet tall, so a little bit smaller, but a guy that IU is going to have to stay with in a big way. And then, as I mentioned before, Nate Biddle is the big guy in the middle, 7-footer. He can step out and shoot a little bit as well. And a good shot blocker as IU tries to figure out how they're going to be able to get points inside. So be interesting to see what they do, but it's certainly a big game for IU. Coach, I know you've probably watched a decent amount of Oregon just from bracketology purposes. As Ryan puts in the chat, could be like a Khalil Ware revenge game of some sort, even though he's not still on the team. Who knows? But Coach, any thoughts on Oregon as the next opponent for IU?
No, just from a bracketology standpoint, it's a huge game on the road against a quad one. Are they in the 20s? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think. Well, it'd be quad one
be
regardless.
75 anyway on the road.
Yeah,
on the road.
I think it'd be a quad 1A anyway. But yeah,
Ken Pom has them 3-3.
It's just, when you're fighting to get in the tournament, you win a team against a 5 or a 6 seed like that. Those things last. Especially against, when these teams, you got to compare yourself to 5 or 6 different teams who might be voted in at the very end, and winning it late in the season is just as important. It's not an official metric, but it is something that sits in the committee's memory that you've won 4 in a row, including a road win at a team like Oregon. So I just think Dana Altman does a really good job. His teams always seem to get better by the end of the year. I don't know much about them offensively or defensively. I haven't studied them that much other than just their wins and losses. But, they had a struggle in the middle of the year, and now they seem to have rebounded, and that Wisconsin win was huge, and they stretched out a game today against USC. So I think they'll be a tough opponent. Indiana's in position, though. If you do lose and play competitively, you got another shot, with the Big Ten tournament and a home game against Ohio State. It's not a must win. It's just a really important one.
Yeah, the other lingering question I think for a lot of folks is where IU sits now within the NCAA tournament projections. I think, Coach, as I looked at, you guys had them as one of the last few teams in at the end of the week. I did the same. I pinch hit on fielding the 68 yesterday. They were one of the last 4 teams in there. So that kind of was a bit of the consensus, I would say, coming into the weekend. This game doesn't move the needle a ton today. It's helpful because it gives you another road victory, which are always things the committee looks at. I believe this will be a quad 2 win, so kind of helps to get those numbers up as well. Don't know that it moves you dramatically up or down the seedless one way or the other. What does allow you to make progress, though, is what some of the other bubble teams around them have done. I know at the very least Arkansas got stomped at South Carolina today, so they were a team that was kind of in that general vicinity. So, if teams lose around them, that can be helpful as well. I think Oklahoma lost again. That was in kind of another bubble team. So those things probably help a little bit more than this win in and of itself for IU. But I think as you get into early next week, they're probably still going to be around in that range. Maybe an outside chance of getting one of the last 4 byes and not heading to Dayton, but I would say that's probably a bit unlikely. But I probably would have said that I wasn't sure I'd have IU in my field before I started doing the process last Monday, and there they were. So I guess we'll see what the rest of today's results and tomorrow's results bring and figure things out from there. But I think they're still on the right side of the cut line heading into the game against Oregon, which is a good place to be and a better place to be than they'd been just not very long ago. That game against Oregon is on Tuesday night at 9:00, and it is on FS1. It looks like so. Unfortunately, we won't get treated to another dose of Eldridge Rukasner, who I believe was the color guy today. So not great on that front, but we will move along here and close up the show. A reminder to check out our friends at Home Field Apparel. You can use the promo code HOME23 at checkout to get 15% off your first order. And with that, it is time for last call. And Ryan, I'll go to you first. Final thoughts on IU's 78-62 win over Washington.
Yeah, they just did what they were supposed to do tonight or today. And I think that, you handle business. And more importantly than the win, you avoided the bad loss that could have sunk your tournament hopes. And that was kind of the same thing as the home game against Penn State. Just win it. But to do it with a 16-point win against a team that's not very good, again, handled business, did what you're supposed to do. And what we're seeing from this team now is a much better brand of basketball than we have seen the rest of the season. Much more consistent, much more balanced, and a lot of guys who are playing with a lot of passion, as you can see the sunset on their career coming, their college careers coming. They're really starting to focus and play up to their potential. So a good day for Indiana basketball. And we'll see now. I think I agree with you guys that I think you've kind of taken the pressure off the Oregon game now. If you lose that, it's a bummer, but it's on the road against a good team. But on the flip side of that, you have no pressure and you can just play free and go for it. And, take some chances that you wouldn't normally take and just try and smash them in the, punch them in the mouth and see what happens. And then you come back and you got Ohio State to beat. So just a solid day for Indiana. And again, as we move forward, this is the kind of thing we should start to expect. We need to raise our expectations up a level and hold the program accountable to those expectations as we move forward into a new era of IU basketball. It's very important that the fan base has those expectations so that the people in charge have those expectations, and then the coaches and the players also have those expectations. So a really nice step in that direction today, and kudos to the guys for getting it done.
Coach, final thoughts from you.
It's just good. I'm going to go back to my word to see a connected team. And for me, I give credit to Leo and Goode. Galloway may be in there too. And then the other guys for following in their example. I think you see, a concerted effort for Rice to get back to where he was. And Carlisle played better tonight. Still takes some crazy shots. But I think Ballo and Reneau have been energized. And there's two ways this thing could have gone when the Woodson stuff came and you're in a losing streak like Indiana was. You could have just given up and gone through the motions and played out the season, or you could have rallied together for one last push. And I'm just glad that the staff and the guys are doing things differently than they had during the losing streak, because it could have been easy to just let it go. And there's no sour grapes. There seems to be a lot of pride in trying to play the game in a certain way, and it's a lot better for everyone involved. And so go get the win at Oregon, and then continue it at home and see where you're going to end up.
Yeah, I think along those same lines, it's been nice to see them really be able to build some momentum. Even they get that win at Michigan State, lose a tough one against UCLA, bounce back and beat Purdue, and then the Penn State game wasn't pretty, but they did what they needed to do. And today's game was kind of a workmanlike effort of really walking into a scenario where you feel like you're the better team and really establish that from the jump and controlled the game. And I think those are things that have not happened as often enough as people would have liked. But I give a lot of credit to this team, as you said, Coach, for really rallying together. And they talked a little bit on the broadcast about that. They were just loose at the shoot around, and they're just not playing, I think, with some of the pressure and the atmosphere around the program there for a while was just hard to exist in and hard to thrive in. And I think they've taken advantage of the situation and played a bit more loose and been more connected, and some of the things that we've wanted to see for a while. And couldn't be happier to see them playing well down the stretch here and pushing for an NCAA tournament bid. And who knows what happens? I think the good news is they should feel pretty confident and should be rested. Like I said, only 2 guys played over 25 minutes tonight, so I think that sets you up good for the Tuesday game against Oregon, and what will be a tough one, but a great opportunity for them to pick up another big win and further solidify their case for a tournament berth. So like where things are going, and was impressed with the way they approached the game and really, like I said, controlled the game throughout tonight. And we'll hope for a repeat performance of that on Tuesday, if at all possible, on Oregon's now more watchable court. It is not, for those who have not watched Oregon games, they did make some changes to it, so it is not quite the I still wouldn't say it's normal, but it is not quite the eyesore that it was in years past. So you don't need to see your optometrist before tuning in on Tuesday night for that one. But that will do it for us on the show tonight. If you want to see us do the show live and be part of the live chat, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/assemblycall. And don't forget to go to substack.assemblycall to join our free email newsletter. Special thanks to Bob Thompson for the music you hear on the show. Special thanks to John Ringer of Rig Design for designing our logo. Thanks to Coach for producing tonight. And thank you for listening. We'll be back to talk IU Hoops again with you on Tuesday night. Until then.
Take it from me, Yogi Ferrell. Keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim. And go Hoosiers.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
Catch me if you can, Coach T.
There are benefits to winning.
There are.
There you go. There you go. Hey, one thing I did not
stretch.
I could not really shoehorn into the show, but Coach, I did want to tell you I listened to the your Bracket U podcast this morning, and always enjoy listening to you and the students that you have on there. But just was really struck by how cool it was at the end, where you were asking them about some of their experiences and different things like that, and like listening to how the opportunities that you guys have provided have like truly changed those two kids, kind of lives and career outlook and things like that. It was pretty damn cool. So kudos to you for doing what you do. But it was kind of a cool moment. I mean, I listened to the show to, try to see where you guys' heads are at bracketology wise, but then I'm listening to that, and it, definitely touching stuff. Really, really, really cool. So would certainly encourage people to, check that out, give them some love. But it was a cool moment, and one of those as who has an educator as a wife, really underscores the importance of teachers and those who really take an interest in students and give them opportunities. It was really, really cool.
Thanks, Andy. That means a lot. It's fun. It's some work to drag some of these youngsters into that and prepare. But when you give them those opportunities and they see it, the Josh kid went down on our TV show the first time. One of those young men that you saw on there went down for the first time, and so he was just shocked at the studio setup, and he thought that was really cool. And then the other young man is one of our photographers that Purdue has granted access to a student photographer. So last night when we're covering the game, he's sending me live pictures from the floor of Mackey Arena, and I'm tweeting them out, and it makes our stuff look so professional. Well, through Purdue, and I know we're an IU, but schools are schools, and they help young people. But he's got a pass now to the Big Ten tournament, and our administrator has signed off on him missing 2 days of school so he can go down at Gamebridge and be on the floor. Those are the things that bracketology for us, those are really, really meaningful. We don't have a lot going into the media world. We have a few, but I hope that the stuff that we do also helps the other kids. But it's cool. It's always fun. Thanks for your kind words.
Hey, no problem. In other podcast related news, I think Ryan was on. I think it's on the one that they're going to release this week, right?
Coming out this week. I sat down with Bob and Mike from X's and Joe's, about almost a 2-hour conversation. It was a lot of fun. Talked about coaching.
It's a lot of Ryan. I'm gonna have to break that up probably over multiple days.
Played it 2 times.
That's way too much show. It's way too much show. I even told them ahead of time. Are you sure people are going to be cool with this? Now, I want to know. Did Mike say anything between you and Moats? I'm not sure. Mike said anything.
Surprised the hell out of me. But yes. He had some great points. I was just going, he's here? He's still here. But no, we talk coaching search. We talk as a journalist, what do you look for? How do you parse what's real and what's not? It was a really fun conversation. And I think good for Indiana fans to listen to as the coaching search starts to ramp up in the next few weeks. I mean, I talked about on there, we're probably not going to hear anything until late March at the earliest, or maybe mid-March, but just an interesting guide, and they had some statistics that were really, I won't spoil it, but some really eye-opening statistics about how to find a coach that'll win a national championship. And it really surprised me, some of the numbers they came up with.
Yeah, it was.
When's that coming out?
This week, sometime this coming week. Next week.
Mike was on with Alex on Podcast on the Brink this week. I thought he did a really good job. And
he did.
I'm assuming referenced some of the similar stats to maybe what you guys talked about. So definitely enjoyed that part of the conversation. And I know Scott and Galen, so they released their part 3 of the coaching search candidates today. I haven't gotten too far into it, maybe 15, 20 minutes. So have enjoyed their take on that.
That's too much Scott. It's too much Scott.
It's an odd scenario where you like have this long to do it. It gives you this extra run up versus the kind of normal like flurry of activity. So it's been interesting to kind of like take it in doses a little bit. And so, but no shortage of good content and conversation for those looking to learn more about it. So I look forward to that. And I'll probably need to break it up into like 10-minute increments so that I can, really kind of allow myself to deal with that much of you. But otherwise, I really look forward to it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I may listen to it to put me to sleep, Ryan. At night, just put it on and then go back and.
Coach, we're supposed to be teaming up against Jared here. You're abandoning me.
Where is Jared?
Yeah, he's probably doing paperwork to lodge these formal complaints. So anyway, all right. Well, we'll call it a night. It's after 9 here on a Saturday, so appreciate everybody being with us. Always good to talk about a win, and always a bit more jovial for sure. So glad to do that, and appreciate everybody being here. And we'll be back on Tuesday following the Oregon game, late night on that one. So we'll the old 11 o'clocker against traditional Big Ten rival Oregon. So
good night, everyone.
All right, see you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, love you guys later.
All right, you too.